My name is Miss Komongai. I traveled to Delhi all the way from Nairobi in Kenya, and I'm very delighted to be here with you today. My colleague Rebecca Manu was supposed to be here, but unfortunately she couldn't. She sends her regards, and I will be covering both of the portions of our presentation. So I'll go through the presentation and then I'm hoping to bring it back to the audience because our topic today is on how do we integrate counseling into schools. And my belief is that all of us here are already doing that in one way, shape, or form. So I'm hoping that in addition to us sharing how we are doing that at the HALI Access Network, that we can also learn from each other in this room and exchange best practices because we're all coming from very diverse contexts. And what we are doing may not be applicable in your context, but it may be in someone else in this room. So I will invite you at some point to also share what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how you have managed to successfully integrate counseling into your school. So before I do that, I will set the stage by talking more about the HALI Access Network. This is the network that I represent, that USAP Community School is also a member of, and we are an association of nonprofit schools, community-based organizations, all in sub-Saharan Africa. And we have come together to bridge the gap of transition from high school to university. And we are serving a very specific demographic of students. They're incredibly brilliant, but they are under-resourced in one way, shape, or form. So they're coming from very low income households. They have limited opportunities and limited access to university. And the context in sub-Saharan Africa, we are privileged in one way to have our students have access to free or highly subsidized primary education and secondary education. But when they shift to higher education, there's a very big gap in terms of financing because higher education is very expensive. I don't know about the places we all come from, but it's very expensive in our context, and it's also very expensive globally. And that part of the education is not as subsidized. So the students coming from these low-income households are therefore at risk of making that transition, and that is the gap that the members of the HALI Access Network are coming in to bridge. So we are 39 members today across 16 African countries and serving about 2,000 students every year. And in addition to sharing this, I also want to echo the importance of organizing in networks and communities, so such as the IC3 is doing. And that is the power that we are rallying as the HALI Access Network so that we are able to advocate as a community, use the power of numbers and advocate when we are speaking to universities, when we are speaking to other stakeholders in the higher education space, we are able to do that as a collective block. And also there's a lot of shared learning as well across institutions. Now, on the other side of the HALI Access Network are who we call the Friends of HALI. These are universities, these are testing agencies, these are corporates involved in one way, shape, or form in making higher education accessible to our students. Now, we are bringing them to the table so that we have both stakeholders from both sides of the conversation seated in the room and talking about how do we make higher education more accessible and more inclusive for all the students that we serve. Because for all of us who have supported students to transition, which is all of us in the room, it's not an easy transition. It's not an easy space to maneuver. We are asking very young students to master a lot and navigate a very difficult and challenging space, all while they're trying to figure out who do I want to become? How do I want to show up in these spaces? So we bring these stakeholders so that we can learn together, we can address the barriers and the challenges that we are experiencing on both sides of the desk, and then collaborate or advocate for changes and for inclusion together. So 47 Friends of HALI, predominantly in the US, in Africa, and now growing that network into Asia and other parts of the world. And our goal really is to make sure that there are opportunities available for students regardless of their income background. Because the challenge that we see as a network is that there many opportunities if you have the resources. There are limitless opportunities for our students who are fortunate to have resources. But those who do not have as much resources, the opportunities are much more limited. So our mission really is to make sure that we are talking about equality, we are talking about accessibility, regardless of the income levels of a household or of the student. So that's the mission that we are carrying on, and currently doing that for sub-Saharan Africa, but we are sharing this model and sharing this experience with all of you here today so that hopefully we can inspire more people to rally and more people to convene in networks or communities to also collaborate and advocate for the students that you're all serving and the unique contexts that you're all working in. So now I'll transition to talking about or framing what are some of the challenges that we are seeing? What are the opportunities that we are seeing when you work as a network? Now, first is to frame the context in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, most of the schools we are serving or students we are serving are coming from national schools, government-funded schools. They are on the national curriculum. And the biggest barrier we have here is that these schools do not even have a guidance counselor or a college counselor. Those that do are private schools or are on the international curriculum. So that for us is the first barrier, which is why we work very closely with the IC3 movement and supporting their mission to bring counseling in every school, because then we reckon students attending government-funded schools or public schools do not have access to that very critical office at their school or that critical resource at their school. So for us, and that is why you will see that most of the members that we are working with are NGOs, are coming from the NGOs and the community-based organizations who come in then to complement what the rest of you do at your school, to complement and provide that opportunity and that service. So we are working very closely with the IC3 movement through the networks that we have in sub-Saharan Africa to ensure that we are supporting schools on the government curriculum or the national curriculum to build counseling services and offices in their schools. And then there's, of course, the increased higher cost of education. I'm sure we've all encountered that or experienced that. And on the flip side, the financial aids, the scholarships are not increasing at the same rate. So how do we then prepare our students to still compete for those resources, for those that need them? And then lastly, there's a growing population, again in our context, of high achieving but low income students, which is contrasted on the other side by the stagnant number of funding. Again, for us, funding is very critical because of the unique community of students that we are serving. But then there's also opportunity. As I mentioned, we collectively are advocating as a bloc, which gives us a muscle, if I may say so, to have conversations with universities so that they can make certain considerations when they're thinking about recruiting students in our context. And then there's a lot of mentorship happening around networks and communities, even in the IC3 movement. I'm sure we have experienced that. There's a lot of cross-learning that is happening in these communities, even with universities, which brings me to the conversation around partnership that we had yesterday in this very room, if anyone attended that session. And we talked about looking at partnerships with universities beyond enrollment, beyond numbers, getting students to university, looking at partnerships beyond that. How can we work with universities to support our students before admission? Perhaps some of the programs that we want to offer in our schools, how can we collaborate with universities to offer some of those programs or to add value to some of those programs? And then beyond enrollment, are we thinking about student support? Are we speaking with universities about these services to the benefit of our students so that it's not just about getting them in? How about making sure that they are thriving at those communities or in those universities? Now I'll shift over to talking about the USAB Community School. Now this is the case study that we were going to talk about, and I will attempt to play this video and hope it does. Do you have anyone from tech? Sound? Sorry. Can you get sound? Okay. As we try and sort out the sound, I will set the scene. So this is USAP Community School. It was founded in the year 2000 as a program, again as a non-profit program that was supporting students across Zimbabwe and supporting them to find opportunities, higher education learning opportunities outside of Zimbabwe. And then a few years ago, they set up a school so that they could have a lot more influence, a lot more time with the students during their A-levels. So it's an A-level science school, all sciences school in Zimbabwe, and intentionally designed to support very high achieving, low income students. Again, as I mentioned, that's the community of students we are serving. And yes. That's the name of the school. Oh, what it stands for, sorry. So the program, when it was began, and it was founded by Rebecca Mano, who was going to be with me here today. She was working with Education USA and supporting the Education USA program. So then she started the US Access program as an NGO, as an extension of her service. And then a few years ago, started Build the School around the same name, based on the origin of the program. But now we have the community school attached to it, and it's built, again, designed around their honor code, the 4 values that we have here. So integrity, equality, service, and curiosity. And this is the benchmark with which they're using to admit students into their school and into their community. So students are expected to demonstrate these values when they come in and in the 2 years that they are with the USAP Community School. And they are doing that in different ways, and I will talk about that. Now, part of it is, one, academic excellence. It's an A-level science school, so we can imagine the pressure and the academic rigor in that school that's focusing on only sciences. In addition to that, they also are very keen on students demonstrating leadership, students demonstrating service to community, and students are also pursuing what their purpose is going to be. And how are they doing that? They have, one, we've talked about the academics, but then they also center a lot on Africa, and that is teaching the students about their culture and their heritage. And that is built to help the students discover who they are, what the communities they're coming from, and how they want to serve those communities. So they do a lot of case studies, they do a lot of discovery of the communities that they're in, they do a lot of quicker conversations or meetings, which are, again, challenging the students to reflect on the communities they're coming from, what are some of the issues in those communities, and how do they want to show up to resolve or to provide solutions for some of those issues. So this is the framework with which they have integrated counseling, if we could say so, integrated counseling into their curriculum. And for them, yes. And so for USAP Community School, counseling is not a one-person job. As Ganesh mentioned, I believe yesterday in his remarks, he mentioned that it cannot be a peripheral function, but a core and central function to what the school does. And he also dared say that school leaders or school principals ought to be the chief counselor in a school, so that we can translate that service, we can translate that counseling thinking and framework to the other stakeholders in the school community. So how is USAP doing that? So every week they have built this, and when we say integrate counseling into the school culture, it's not just something that we are saying but not doing. And I've worked as a guidance counselor before, and I know how difficult it is when we say we support counseling, but it's not showing up in the school calendar. So what USAP has done is build counseling functions and intentions and programs into the curriculum and calendar of the school, so that on a weekly basis, students are experiencing counseling in different departments or across different programs, not just when they meet with a guidance counselor. So one of the things that USAP is doing is weekly convocation meetings. So they're inviting guest speakers from very diverse professions, from very diverse backgrounds and experiences, to share their own journeys and encourage and invite students to question and understand the trajectory of certain industries, the future of certain industries, the growth projections of certain industries, so that students can have knowledge and information as we ask them to make choices of how they want to, what professions or what pathways they want to pursue after high school. And then they're also doing a lot of reflections, as I will mention, and case study conversations, which are again anchored on the SDGs, so that we're not asking students to think about a narrow career pathway. I want to become a doctor, but we're asking them to look at the world as a whole. So they're using the SDG framework to challenge students to interrogate very specific issues in society, be it their own home communities or globally. What are the issues in the world that you care about, that you want to contribute to, that you feel your passions and talents could be best utilized to explore? So they use the SDG framework to bring knowledge of the world, to bring awareness of what is happening in the world, and then supporting the student to think about what issue are my talents best suited for, or what issue do I feel passionate to support or to contribute to, rather than thinking very narrowly about a very specific career path or a very specific discipline. Is opening up the student's mind to think about purpose, a purposeful driven career, which is what the IC3 movement also advocates for. And then when we say that counseling is not a one person or a one department job, USAP Community School is using the framework of advisory groups. So every student in the school is a part of a smaller community or a family group, if you may, that is attached or paired to two professionals in the school. That could be a teacher, it could be a support staff member, but two adults in the school community who come in as mentors to the students. And they are meeting with them on a weekly basis to have, again, smaller conversations around the larger conversations that are happening in the school or across the school framework, to then interrogate, so what are my fears, what are my challenges, what are my dreams, what am I thinking about, what are my considerations, and how can I make a plan that this adult in my team will keep me accountable on and support me on as I go or navigate my journey. So that is one of the structures they're using to make sure that the burden of guidance counseling is not on one person who takes the office of a guidance counselor. So spreading that across to the rest of the school, spreading that across to every stakeholder in the school, because everyone has something to offer. Every moment in a school is a teachable moment that we can use to provide guidance counseling. And then lastly, a lot of career and purpose exploration, even in classroom. And I hope we'll be able to see the video, if we could look into the sound, so that you see how USAP is bringing the world into the classroom, so that when it's a physics lesson, we are thinking about physics in the framework of what is a challenge I learned about from the SDG exploration that I can use this particular lesson in physics, or I can apply this knowledge in my physics classroom to resolve. So really bringing the world into the classroom and helping students think about what they are learning in the context of what is happening outside of the classroom. Because sometimes the challenge you have is, and Ganesh again mentions this in his story, of him being an outsider in the classroom, we don't help students connect what they are learning. Why are they even learning some of those things if we are not helping them connect that to how can they apply this to their everyday journey? How can they apply this to what is happening around them on a daily basis? So that is something that USAP is integrating into their classrooms, making learning very practical, making learning very experiential. And this is by connecting what's happening in the classroom with what is happening around the school, or what is happening around the experiences that the students are having. Sorry? We are ready? Okay, thank you. And then the other piece I want to talk about is the academic motivation, which is linked to university outcomes. So from when the student joins USAP school, it's a two-year program. So from when they start their A-levels, there's already an academic motivation to what they want their outcome to be. And this for USAP is linked to the university outcomes, which they use as a benchmark for the students. Again, these are HALI students, so they have very specific needs when they think about their university options. They're thinking about very competitive universities that can provide them the level of funding and financial aid that they require. And we all know those schools have very high expectations of the students. So USAP Community School uses those expectations to then present to the students from when they start their A-levels as a benchmark, so that on a daily, weekly, termly basis, students are assessing themselves against that expectation. And that is how they're bringing in the academic motivation, so that a student has a very clear goal or a very clear target towards which to which they're working towards. So that has helped in terms of, and you can see some of their outcomes or their results from, I believe this is the class of last year or 2 years ago, very successful outcomes for an all-science school. And these students are coming from a national curriculum to the A-levels and thriving in just those 2 years. So there's a lot of academic rigor going on. There's a lot of academic resilience and motivation, which is all happening parallel to, again, excellence outside of the class, of the classroom. So I'm told we are ready for the video, so I will attempt to play this again. Yes.
Welcome to USAP Community School, a permanent campus located on Rosari Road in Morondera. Our new campus home is set on 93 hectares of wondrous Miyombo woodlands and balancing rocks. It's where dreams take flight amidst the whispers of nature and the laughter of future leaders.
I started USAP in the year 2000 as a college access program, and the goal was in response to the fact that there are brilliant young people all over Zimbabwe, and the only barrier between them and their potential is the lack of exposure, lack of opportunity. So USAP is trying to find brilliant young people around the country and expose them to educational transformation that will allow them to live up to their potential. I think often we focus on poverty and we don't focus on potential. And if we focus on the potential of young people, then we can really help them live and see possibilities that were beyond their horizons before.
Since 2000, USAP has helped nearly 1,000 students reach global heights. But it wasn't enough. We wanted to create a space where these bright minds could thrive daily, grounded in Quaker values of integrity, equality, service, and curiosity. Here at our new permanent home in Marondera, we're more than a school, we're a family, a beacon of hope.
Our unique USAP curriculum combines Cambridge A-level sciences with African-centered humanities, coding, extracurriculars, and a year-long capstone research project for students to tackle a challenge in their communities. Beyond teaching and beyond the subjects, we are nurturing thinkers who question the world and their place in it. USAP Community School develops an ethic in service and leadership, which prepares students not only for admission to top universities in the world, but also to make an impact upon their return to Zimbabwe.
USAP Community School is a story of hope. It bridges the gap between the less privileged and the opportunities that they could never have dreamed of. All the students at USAP Community School are here on a need-based scholarship, and this accounts for 95% of the costs. To date, 185 students have walked through the doors of USAP Community School, and our first 3 cohorts have earned over $20 million in scholarships. At USAP Community School, we offer a lot of co-curricular activities. We have robotics, we have archery, we have Model United Nations, and a whole lot more that you can think of that you find in any given school.
I think USAP has done a great job in my life. It has improved my speaking abilities and my confidence. And I've also learned a lot of Zimbabwean cultures and African cultures through our traditional dance club. You see, a lot of high schools do not offer traditional dance classes, but USAP offers that, and it's a great learning opportunity for me. So Ellen Johnson Sirleaf once said, if your dreams do not scare you enough, then they are not big enough, right? The biggest dream I have for my life is to build a maternity hospital for my community in Udretu.
Before coming to USAP, I didn't have dreams. I was just an average student who was just going to school like other students. USAP is just a different school, which made me realize that in life I should have a dream. I dream of becoming an aerospace engineer and also something to do with chemistry because I love chemistry.
Each student here carries a unique story, a tale of resilience, a spark of potential. They come from all the 10 provinces in Zimbabwe, in high-density urban townships, rural villages, and the Tongogara refugee camp.
By performing well, I qualified for the Zimbabwe archery team. So we did a tournament in South Africa when I met Canadians, people from Botswana, Namibia, and wow, I felt invincible just representing Zimbabwe. A girl from Shishangane. And people I was competing with had done archery for 9 years because they have a bow and a target butt in their backyard. I got accepted into Stanford University. Affording university was not going to be possible. My sister had to fund her own university. So being at USAP, most people come and have so much potential and it's undiscovered. They have it, but with the right tools, we can make it. If I hadn't been at USAP, I'd be working by now. Would have been selling something on the street just to like pay the rent, but I get an education. I get to be somewhere. Yeah.
Past USAP graduates are globally engaged, and increasingly they return to the African continent, including Zimbabwe, in positions of innovation and leadership. The vision of the school is to be a global leader in transformative education exclusively for low-income students, sustained by their own success through alumni support.
We will stop there. So that is the story of USAP. And as the head of school mentioned, it's a story of hope. Again, this is very contextual to the community that this school is serving, or the community that this school is built on. But I really want to emphasize with that the power of integrated counseling, because with it, as Chiedza, the student mentioned, students come in with a lot of potential that they are not aware of, and it is our responsibility to help them discover that potential. And we do that by creating really meaningful and intentional opportunities for them to do that on a daily basis in every interaction that they have at the school, be it in the classroom or outside of the classroom. Because otherwise, Chiedza is now a national archery Olympiad. And that is something she would never have known she has the capability to do had she not been exposed to archery at this school. So every encounter, every opportunity that we expose students to really, really matters. So there is a lot of intentionality invited of us as educators in what we are building around our schools, in the meaningful spaces and opportunities we are creating around the school. And there's a heavy emphasis. Again, I don't know about India and other parts of the world, but where I come from, academic excellence is the only thing most schools will pay attention to. Are you passing your maths? Are you passing your physics? Are you excelling in chemistry? But we don't pay as enough attention to, but what is the capability of the student? What else are they capable of? What else are they gifted and talented in? And using, for example, co-curricular activities. USAP school and many other schools are inviting students to really find and discover other capabilities that they have, so that you don't end up just a scientist because you're good in physics, but you're thinking about your physics talent and your science in the context of humanity and society. What is needed and what is required? Where can I fulfill a need in society using my physics or using my skill set? And we can do that by exposing our students to as many co-curricular activities, many spaces to speak with professionals and speak with industry experts, spaces to do research. One of the USAP alumni, who is now a teacher at the school, spoke about the capstone research project that they also engage students in. So in their final year, they're taking students through qualitative and quantitative research methods classes, which the students are then required to apply in a 1-year-long capstone project. Now, the capstone project is sort of a cumulative effort to apply the SDG lessons that they've been having, the African case studies and global case studies they've been exploring, and challenging the student to go back to their communities, find a challenge or a problem or an issue in their community, and do their own research to propose potential solutions, so that at the end of the 1 year, they're thinking about themselves really from a purpose perspective. This is an issue, and this is how you can go about resolving it. They're thinking about themselves from a very purpose-driven perspective in the way of applying their skills or applying the opportunities that they've had. Now, that again is another way that we can help students bring the world into the classroom and bring the classroom outside into the world, by giving them opportunities to challenge the learning and to apply the learning that they have participated or engaged in. And then lastly, there's exposure to wider opportunities to again expand what expand what students feel or think they're capable of, and challenging them to push those limits. So pictured here on the left, these are 2 students who submitted a proposal to the Zayed International Competition and a sustainability competition on sustainability. And they won and were able to present their proposal at COP28 in Dubai. Again, expanding what the students think is their limit and really showing them the limitless possibilities and opportunities that they are capable of pursuing. And then on the right here, the lovely lady is presenting this at a university in the US while she's still in high school. Again, participated in the National Science Fair and went all the way to the International Science Fair competition. And you can imagine what this does for a young woman coming from somewhere in Zimbabwe and now being in the global space and global platform to present her own knowledge and her own ideas and her own thinking. So these are some of the ways that, want to be conscious of time, these are some of the ways that USAP is using the world as a learning space for students and challenging students to excel in academics, but also excel in finding what am I here for? What is my purpose? And how can I integrate my purpose and my talents? How can I integrate my talents and my skills to live a very purposeful life and to solve a global issue rather than think about to become a certain profession? Is to think about what issue do I want to solve in society. So in the interest of time, I will stop there. And I had mentioned that I will also invite my audience to share what are other things you're doing at your own schools or other opportunities that you have found at your own schools that have been helpful to integrate counseling into the school culture or the way that your school runs and operates. So I will hand it over to the audience now. If you have questions, if you have suggestions and tools or skills or other things that are succeeding and going well at your schools, please, you're welcome to share with us so that we can all learn from the collective.
Actually, I think we are doing the same thing as, maybe I'm not sure of something new, but I wanted to just place on record my appreciation for you because I was in Ethiopia for a couple of years and I really have been with the people of Africa in one way or the other, and I know the interest they have, especially the kids. And I really love them because it's like they don't have the avenues, but I can feel that in their eyes actually. They want to do something and all that. So it's a very good effort that you have taken. And I wish it is extended to maybe all the countries in Africa, like where there are so many kids who are waiting for an opportunity and who wanted to be recognized and given a chance to come up. But I think this is a very wonderful, like what you have done. We do the same thing in my school. For example, I'm coming from South India, like from Tamil Nadu. And there we have this parent involvement program where we invite the parents, like we during one of our meetings, we'll ask the parents to volunteer and give their suggestions in a particular field where they have excelled or they knew the scope is better. And they come and discuss with our students. That will be a collaboration. Then, like as you told, the students who studied in USAP, they come back and they talk to their juniors or whatever. So we have our alumni meetings frequently and they share their knowledge and other things. So that's what we do. And we make the children collaborate amongst themselves and do. And anyway, I just wanted to appreciate this effort and congrats to the students and all the best also.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just wanted to share something that we have started at school this year. So we realized that when the students are in high school and then you start having these conversations, it's too late. So this year we launched something called the Career Quest for kids as young as grade 5, where they start thinking about who they want to become. So, in grade 5, they generally pen down what their wish is and then taking it ahead to their higher grades, where we start talking to them, getting industry experts, getting the parents to collaborate, come and speak, the senior students moving down to the junior classes to talk about what they have done, what were the challenges that they faced. Starting the conversation as early as possible so that, as you said, that, it's not a peripheral activity. It has to be done throughout and in continuity. So we're just trying to do that.
That's very good. Thank you. And yeah, it's the earlier we start, the better. The earlier we start planting the seeds of, you need to think about how you want to show up in the world and really exposing them. Because I say you don't know what you don't know, right? And if you've grown up in a family of doctors, that is what you want to become, because that is what you have seen, right? So a lot of exposure at a young age so that they see the diversity in the world in terms of opportunities and in terms of places they can meaningfully and actively contribute. That's very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Salma from Enko Ouagadougou. So it's in line with what she mentioned. First of all, I really appreciate this. And I'm wondering also that does USAP have any, I don't know, services that they provide to students in other African countries, for instance?
That's a good question. So USAP is in Zimbabwe, but then when you think about the umbrella HALI Access Network, that is across 16 African countries. And this is just one case study of what one of our members is doing in Zimbabwe. Then we have 39 others across these other countries. And the one thing that the network is very open to is sharing knowledge and sharing opportunities and sharing information. So if you, coming from Malawi, Burkina Faso, if you wanted to learn and connect with us, we are always happy to do that and really share as much as we can, because the one thing we're very aware of is there's no limitation or limited potential in Africa as anywhere else in the world. What there is a limit to is access to opportunity. So the more we can expand that access for us, that is success. Yeah, so happy to connect. Yeah.
Hello, good morning. This is Ramesh from Nepal. And thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. And I would like to share one program which currently our government, I'm from Nepal, our government has applied among the community schools. So we have one program called Earning While Learning. Yes, so it is called Kamaudai Pardai or Pardai Kamaudai. That means the students from grade 7 and above in the community school, we have lots of premises, the vacant premises, empty land. And government decided to make the students engage in farming. Mostly they just cultivate tomato farmings and then the cow, buffaloes, yes. So every day at least 45 minutes and our students would engage in their different farming tasks. From them, they can earn at least pocket money. So our school and our government has applied this program, and this is quite effective among the students above grade 7 and up, and even in college level also. So this could be quite impressive program for the country like Nepal, which is still developing. And thank you.
Thank you. I like that. And I'm sure they learn a lot of responsibility and life skills in just taking on that responsibility. Thank you for sharing that.
Hi, I'm kind of an aspiring school founder and thinking about building these operations in much the way that Rebecca did. And I'm wondering, everybody in here is committed to the idea of counseling as a part of the fabric of the school from the beginning and in every way. But what is the opposite of that? What is the antagonist? Is it a focus exclusively on exam results in the most narrow way as the evidence of success for students? Or is there something else that we need to be on guard for as we try to create that culture? And it's for you or for anybody.
Yeah, and I will start by saying USAP is coming in with a privilege that it's founded by a guidance counselor and an college access advocate. So you can see a lot of intentionality in what the school has built or the framework of the school. Now, some of us come into schools that have existed for years, and there's what is the existing fabric of a school. I have worked in such schools where it's very difficult to even convince the school administration that you'd like to bring in a speaker to talk to the students. Those are realities that guidance counselors experience on a day-to-day basis. And in our context, one of the biggest challenge is a belief that academics alone are what will define success for the students. And there's evidence to show the opposite, that we need to expose students to more than just, the technicalities of what they're learning in school. That is the reality today. And there's also the thinking, which is traditional thinking, that you have to become a doctor, engineer, teacher, and I think accountant to become successful. But today, there are so many other things that students are doing and succeeding. So as a founder of a school, those are some of the beliefs that you're working or building against. There is also local or cultural issues to also consider. There's someone talked about parents. Those can be your biggest supporter or your biggest undoing when you think about guidance counseling. So those are some of the issues to think about when you're thinking about building a college counseling, a guidance counseling department or a school, because these are existing structures that you will have to push against, sometimes fight against, in pursuit of holistic education.
Thank you very much. So this might seem obvious, this suggestion I'm going to give. However, I found out when I got here that not everyone knows about it, so I want to share it. When I first got to know or got the enlightenment that college counseling doesn't only have to be with, university guidance and just career, whatever. In my research, I came across this resource called Overcoming Obstacles. It's a free resource from K to 12. And it shares like curriculums and activities that if you're new to this, you can follow. The step is 1 hour for each lesson, and it builds, it's sort of, the goal is to build life skills while guiding students. So this is just something I want to share for anyone who might not know. It's called Overcoming Obstacles. Just Google it, and it's free, everything on it, from K to 12.
Thank you for sharing that resource. Thank you all so much. I know we only have 1 minute, and to wrap up, I just really want to applaud the work that we all do. As a guidance counselor myself, I know how critical that is. We were asked in a session yesterday to raise our hands if we don't practice what we learned. And I was one of those. I was a BCom major, and I have never once worked in business. I mean, I learned a lot of skills that I'm applying today in my life and in my profession. But for me, that echoes the importance of counseling and the importance of intentionally guiding and supporting students. Now, it's a heavy responsibility, but it's a very important responsibility. So one, to remind us how important those functions are. And as we heard from the students here, they come into our spaces not knowing what they're capable of. And we have the potential to create magic and to help them realize their potential and realize their capabilities. So again, to take that role with that keenness in knowing the potential of your role in the student's life. And I know we all know this, just to motivate us and encourage us to keep thinking from that framework. And there are many barriers, as John is asking about, but there is also a lot of success, and there is also a lot of progress that we are making as communities, as societies. So it's again to bring in some of those successful models into the spaces where we're experiencing barriers in a bid to inspire change and in a bid to inspire progress, and to always remember, we do this for the students, and there's a lot of value in providing holistic education. Thank you.